then it might well be not correctly collimated.
Yeah, it was a process I never even heard of before we got this, so I kind of don't know what we're doing here.
See, Don Peckham has a nice little one-sheet explanation of how to collimate a Newtonian.
Okay, that might be helpful.
I'd like to comment. I have seen some of these telescopes at the workshop in the past, and there's not a lot of adjustment to do, and there's typically not a lot of adjustments. Are you somewhere near Stub Stewart, and are there groups go out some evening that you might talk to somebody there?
It's quite a ways from us.
Okay.
Where do you live?
We live in the Alameda neighborhood, northeast Portland. So, if maybe I get that sheet and try the collimating thing again. But I mean, it said you had to adjust the top mirror and the bottom mirror. And we adjusted the small mirror first, and then we adjusted the bigger one. Maybe we should have done it the other order. Doesn't matter. Okay. Well, that's a relief. We did get the little circles lined up, more or less. Or maybe more rather than less.
You did get them pretty much concentric?
Yeah, pretty much. But then it felt like if we were moving it to, twist the big tube to look at something, maybe it got off.
Was there a reason why you collimated it? Was it off to begin with, or?
Because we had never used it before, and that's what it said you should do first. We have a lens thing.
Well, actually, we had used it before, and it seemed, we looked at the moon, remember, several months ago, and it did seem sharper.
Yeah, but we wanted to look at stars, and they didn't this time.
Well, I might be able to help you. I don't live too far from here.
Oh, okay.
I could drive over there and have a look at it.
Well, thanks very much. That's very nice.
Why don't you put your, you have my email, right? My personal email? Yeah. Why don't you just put me your address in the email so you don't have to put it all on public.
Okay. Would you want to do it at night, or we have
I'd like to do it during the day. I'd like to do it during the day first.
Yeah, we could get a view of some of the West Hills, and that's what we focused on before when we looked at the moon. We got the focus for the trees on the top of the hills that worked pretty well. So that would be great if you could do it, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow evening tomorrow. Yeah, we have time tomorrow.
So, who else somebody else had a, Ajit,
Yeah. My name's Ajit. New member. This is my first meeting. Thanks for letting me join in. I have a Bushnell Voyager reflector telescope that I'm setting up for the first time, and I guess just by sheer dumb luck, I was able to focus the viewing apparatus at a distant tree and focus it in just fine. But when I tried to look at a star late at night, I was not able to see anything, and the instruction book that came with it suggested using the finder scope to accurately dial in the viewing apparatus, but I'm unable to make sense of the finder scope, unfortunately. Like I look through it, I see this huge expanse of space through the finder scope, and then I look through the telescope and I see something that looks somewhat similar, but not very close. And so I think I'm just fumbling around in the dark, and I was wondering if somebody could just walk me through this initial setup. I'd really appreciate it.
The first, whenever I do this, I just noticed my wife's name.
Figured it out.
I guess you know I'm not Margaret.
Yeah.
To align the finder scope to the main scope, you should probably do that during the daytime, when you can see something in the distance, like a tree, it's a quarter mile away or something, and and look through the main scope, put the top of the tree right in the center of your field of view, and then adjust the finder scope. You have crosshairs on it, I see. Correct?
It did not.
Does it have crosshairs?
No, crosshairs would have helped.
Well, then you have to kind of guess at adjusting the finder scope until the same tree that you're looking at in the main scope is centered in the finder scope.
Yeah.
You do that during the daytime, it's a lot easier than trying to do that at night.
Okay.
And then make sure it's solid, that the finder scope is solidly attached. Sometimes the screws come loose and it wriggles around, and even if you adjust it in the daytime, it'll come loose at night.
Okay.
So just make sure it's very snugly screwed down. And if you can't solve that, then one of us might be able to help you in person.
Thanks. Thanks.
And then, Don, are you going to post a link to your collimation tutorial?
Yes, I'll go ahead and put that into the chat.
Okay, good.
Okay, so now we're ready for Raoul, I think.
Yeah, let's do Raoul.
Unmute is a helpful thing. Well, hello everybody. 20 odd years ago, I got this very nice Meade ETX 60, and I got it for a couple of reasons. One is because I had small children that I could entertain with a telescope, but also because it was one of the first exemplars of a computer-controlled go-to with a library of objects that you could dial in, and so I thought that might be interesting. And I used it for a few years and then packed it away, and recently found an opportunity to unpack it. I've just recently moved to the Portland area in Beaverton, and what I found with the telescope is that the battery snap-on for the 9-volt, there's a 9-volt snap-on to a that attaches to the battery holder. There's a little bit of corrosion on the battery holder, but otherwise it's in good shape. But the snap-on, one of the two wires, the ground wire, has broken off, and frankly the attachment is too tight, and so I'm looking to extend it. So I need electronic parts, small electronic parts, and not being from the area, I have no idea where to go to buy a replacement 9-volt snap-on with two leads, the red and the black, that I can use to extend the leads from the telescope. And then from there, once I get power, I can continue to assess and see whether the computer works, the motors work, and everything else. And there's no great rush, but I have to take step one first. Fry's, which is earned its reputation in the day, appears to have completely evaporated, and I think the one in Salem finally closed its doors. There are no more Radio Shacks, so where do you guys go to get small electronic parts? Don't say Best Buy, because I don't think they're much better than the others. So what's the answer?
There used to be an electronics store in Beaverton. Does anybody know if that's still around? Norvac, I think it was called.
That's right. That's near Washington Square, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, near Washington.
Could you spell that?
Norvac, I think. I don't know if they're still around though.
Even someone like Wink's Hardware might have a lot of options.
Yeah, no, Norvac had gone, but there's a place across the street that only sells surplus stuff.
Good.
I would actually go to eBay.
Okay.
Out in Hillsborough, there's Mr. Gizmos,
Yeah.
and there's also PCH cables.
So Surplus Gizmos in Hillsborough.
Surplus Gizmos, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. And you can Google it and find out where it is. Most of this, I've got a bunch of those kinds of things floating around here, which I might even be able to grab one if I look on my desk here. But eBay and Amazon are for that kind of thing are probably your best bets. If you want more exotic stuff, DigiKey is great.
So
Is that what is DigiKey?
It's an online
Okay.
electronic supply house. So this is populated with DigiKey parts for the most part. So
Interesting. So
I'm sure Amazon will. You could get one on Amazon too.
yeah, you know, you can buy one of these things for more than it costs to buy 10. You know? And that's the problem. It's you know, it's we really need the equivalent of a Radio Shack here in Portland. We have a ham radio outlet store, which is just wonderful because you can wander in and shop, you know, if you know what I mean. But from an electronics, a small electronics maker kind of perspective, I'm baffled by how people get their stuff.
Yeah. So Raul, I actually have like 3 of them right here, and I don't need 3 of them. They've been in my because I bought the 10-pack. If you want one, I'm happy to like throw one in an envelope in the mail for you.
You know, that would be fine with me. I'd be happy to take one of yours and compensate you at the appropriate rate.
No, it's free other than the stamp. So and I don't need. Yeah, no, it's.
Shall I put my address in the chat here? Is that?
Yeah, if you put it, I think you can chat privately. So just put it in there, and I'll put it on an envelope. And
right to Brett. Right there we go, Brett.
That's an amazing example of a resolution.
That solves my problem for today, and thank you very, very much. The larger problem, which is, you know, I do other maker kinds of projects, and I do need a place to go to get random things, ranging from transistors and pin wires and you know, so on and so forth. There are plenty of online places, yes, but that's sort of a more thoughtful cycle than wandering in and doing impulse buying, which I like to do on occasion.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
I don't know if it's still going on, but the Tektronix has a company store that's open once a week with all kinds of surplus stuff that they sell off.
Yeah, I don't think they've opened their surplus yet again because of COVID. And it's like once a month.
Oh, is it really once a month?
Yeah, and I don't. I mean, they have. I'm not sure they have quite the parts. I mean, he's looking for the PCH cables out in Hillsboro. They specialize in like every kind of cable imaginable. But he started carrying electronic components as well. He started carrying some stuff.
I know another store that has this kind of stuff. In fact, it's a store you can browse just like you described, Raul, and that is what is it called? URS Electronics, and it's on Northeast Cooch Street, about 7th and Cooch on the east side. And you can just walk in the door, and they have a shelf on the right full of things like Arduinos and sensors and resistors and tubing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm looking for. This is awesome.
Yeah, and surplus, and definitely surplus. To check out Surplus Gizmos because they get a lot of different things out there.
There was a time when radio supply stores were all over the city. When we built crystal radios as kids, like Richard Berry talked about before, and I have, you could just go to a radio supply electronics place and they had all this stuff. But today it's become so complicated.
When I was in high school, I went to Benson High School in the 60s, and we could take the bus downtown, and United Electronics, I think it was called, United Electronics, somewhere near West Burnside, and you could walk in and buy a resistor and a transistor and, you know, a one-off thing like that for just a few cents.
I think that was the same store. That was the one I remember.
That's what's become URS Electronics. The guy that owns it, his father, I think, moved it from the west side to the east side, and now the son is taking over.
Very good to know.
Karen, I wanted to mention that Don put in the chat, Don put a link to his collimation thing. Did you
That's
get that?
great. I'll check that out. Definitely. I'll be ready for you.
Okay. So I will, did you email me your address?
Yeah. To the whatever site we've been mailing back and forth now. So.
Yeah, I got it. There it is. All right, great. Okay, I'll try to come out tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is going to be great. So.
Okay.
Maybe we'll see you guys again.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
That was a great example, John, what Brett offered. He had the parts right there in his hand and told Raul he'd just give him one. I know many people that have big corporations here in the city. They're huge shops and operations, and they have access to all this stuff, but they don't come to the telescope workshops. It's too bad. They don't.
No.
I know them all.
That's a nice thing when we were meeting at TMS. They have a lot of that kind of stuff. And Dan Gray says, if you need one of something, just use it. But we're not physically there anymore, unfortunately.
But you still will be one day. I mean, the telescope library is still there. Is that true?
There are telescopes in the telescope library stored at TMS, yes, but right now they're inaccessible to us, as a library. The library is not functional.
I tell a lot of people across the city, and when I'm out doing sidewalk astronomy, that I said you should become a member of the Rose City Astronomers. You can check a telescope out. Now, are they still allowing people to check them out on arrangement?
We haven't been checking them out since the pandemic.
No, it's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, OMSI's closed. I think OMSI's still closed, right? They haven't been down there.
They opened the theaters, but the rest of the OMSI is closed.
And the star parties, it was unfortunate. Many of the star parties have been canceled. The ones out in the Gorge and at Stubb Stewart that were a Saturday night once a month through all the fair weather seasons have been. The Oregon Star Party said they were going to open. Then the last second it closed, but not because of the pandemic, but because of wildfires.
Right.
So,
the Forest Service pulled their permit.
It's just too bad.
Yeah. So, anybody else? Joe, did you have a question that you wanted to present?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Celestron 6SE that I got for Christmas, and I think I dialed in the collimation on it pretty well. I used a flashlight with a pinhole piece of aluminum, set far away, so I could get an artificial star out of it. But I think I got it dialed in pretty good. But my question, I guess, is, I've heard about Bob's knobs. Wonder if anybody here has used those, if they're any good. And the other thing, too, that I have a question about is I've been reading a lot about the 2-inch diagonal, because I could put a 2-inch diagonal on the back of the scope versus what's on there now, which is the 1 1/4. But wondered if there was any advantage to doing that. So,
any opinions out there? I think that 1 1/4 versus 2-inch is. It just depends on what eyepieces you have. If you have a 2-inch eyepiece, you need a 2-inch focuser.
Oh, sure, yeah. I just have one eyepiece that I purchased. It's the Orion 27mm.
Joe, I texted you some info on Bob's knobs. Did you not get that on the chat?
Oh.
Yeah, I use Bob's knobs, and a lot of people do, because they're easy, require no tools.
Got it.
Like I said in the text there, if you can imagine fumbling around in the dark with a screwdriver trying to collimate at night. And I'm a extraordinarily clumsy person, as my wife will attest, and that's extremely dangerous for a guy like me. But for most people, I think it's a good idea too. Yeah.
Well, my luck with the screws, I'll probably strip the heads on them or something anyway.
But be careful when you change out those screws, because it's a possibility you can unscrew the secondary in there. So be careful. Follow the instructions carefully that come with them.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I guess for viewing purposes, I'd like to be able to look into deep space objects and look at Saturn and things like that as much as I could.